Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the next chapter of CharIN Tuesdays. And today we have an opportunity to talk about the future of charging and how we see it today. My name is Oleg Logvanov. I am CEO and founder of a company called Iateka. We focus on development of smart charging infrastructure and components that go into building it. And I also wear head of chairman of the board of North American chapter of CharIN. So it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this installment of CharIN Tuesdays. And before we start with our panel, I would like to do a couple of housekeeping announcements. First of all, please pay attention to the suggestions that will make your viewing experience and sound better. Check your sound settings, camera settings, communication and chat, how you can use it to ask questions. And of course, screen sharing is not allowed to anybody who is participating in this panel, with the exception of panelists and organizers. So with that, I would like to move to the next step and introduce all of our esteemed panelists today. I would like to start with Julia. Julia, please.
Yes. Hi, my name is Julia Lomax. I work for Electrify America, and I have developed a plug and charge alongside Electrify America and Hubject since 2019. So I've been at the forefront of plug and charge, and I'm happy to be here today.
Thank you. Ivo?
Good afternoon, everyone. Ivo Steklak. I am the Chief Technology Officer of EVgo. We are an EV charging provider in the public, retail, and commercial private sectors, and we are in the process of implementing plug and charge that we'll talk more about later.
Thank you. Bart?
Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Bart Seidel's EV Fleet Business Development Manager for BP. And we too are also starting to implement plug and charge primarily over in Europe first, but I have experience having worked with Julia and previous experience when I was with Hubject and working on and kind of developing and promoting the whole plug and charge use case under 1511.8. So pleasure to be here and look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Bart. And Cliff?
Cliff Hitzek, I'm the CTO at InCharge Energy, a company focused on commercial and fleet applications, charging applications. And I'm probably working as long as Oleg on plug and charge, starting in 2012 within the standardization from the BMW side, and then working with Bart and Julia in between 2017 and 20-something to get plug and charge on the road and rolled out at Electrify America, and supporting also the rollout in Ionity in Europe.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And thank you, panelists, for joining today, and thank you for contributing your time for this interesting discussions that we're about to have. But before we dive into the topics of today, it's probably appropriate for everybody on this call to learn a little bit more about what CharIN is, what CharIN does, and all of this wonderful terminologies that we just pushed over through the GoToMeeting to all of you. So first of all, what is CharIN? CharIN is an industry alliance that today is 291 members strong. And CharIN's goal and mission is to promote interoperable charging experience, high quality charging experience, driven by interoperable and community developed standards. And this is a very important point. What is a standard? Standard is something that industry creates when many stakeholders get together and through rigorous consensus process, develop something that is being adopted by everybody in the industry. Great examples of standards. Everyone knows what Wi-Fi is, right? Today, it's hard to imagine our life without Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is a standard. Underneath of Wi-Fi logo is IEEE 82.11 standard that has been evolved by a large community through many, many years to become what it is today, a ubiquitous technology that we don't almost notice, but it exists there and helps us to do what we do. Another great example of standard is USB. USB has been evolving from A, B to C, and now pretty much allows us to charge any type of devices from any type of charger. It's a convenient and great experience for everybody. Very similarly, in CharIN, we see combined charging system and megawatt charging system as a unique and ubiquitous approach to charging based on very detailed standards that specify mechanical components, specify communication components, safety approach to charging. We created standards that now allow basically an ecosystem of 291 members to build products and services around the same interoperable set of standards. So it doesn't matter which vehicle you buy, it doesn't matter which brand of charger you buy. Your experience of charging has to be high quality and reliable every single time we plug vehicle into the charger or vice versa. So CharIN is working today on two systems: combined charging system, which goes up to 500 kilowatt from AC single kilowatt level to 500 kilowatt DC. And recently we announced and launched, actually the launch was quite spectacular in North America at Daimler Trucks North America headquarters in Portland, Oregon. And megawatt charging system is designed to be able to deliver multiple megawatts of power from charger to the truck or mining equipment or anything that requires tremendous amount of power to recharge batteries in a very, very rapid fashion. So this is what CharIN is. It's basically enabling ubiquitous charging experience for any type of electrified transportation, whether we're talking about motorcycle, passenger car, last mile delivery, minivan, a truck, class 8 truck or school bus, boat or airplane. All of that can be charged or discharged because we enable bidirectional power flow using the standard connector CCS or MCS. One of the important elements that we already mentioned in many of the introductions you just heard is plug and charge. What does plug and charge mean? Well, we'll show you short videos that will explain what it is, but it's actually the way to eliminate all of the inconveniences and improve quality of charging for every one of us, starting from consumer driving a passenger car to professional fleet operators. Plug and charge is basically eliminates the need for RFIDs, credit cards, FABs, PIN codes. It turns, if you will, a car into a gigantic credit card and wheels. So once you plug it in, it authenticates itself and charging process begins. If you look at CharIN's value chain represented among our 291 members, you will find pretty much every link of charging value chain well represented here, from a large number of OEMs to a large number of infrastructure players to a large number of operators, and the list goes on. Not to mention companies like my company, iTech, working on components and products, white label chargers, and so forth. So every one of us is contributing into this ecosystem and creates this interoperable experience. Benefit to the consumer, lower cost products, more reliable experience based on the experience of all of us combined, and of course, high quality charging. With that, I would like to spend a few minutes just so we can take a look at illustration of what plug and charge really is, and we'll do it with a fun video. So, Katharina, please play the video. So let's go back to our normal view. So we need to cancel the presentation of the video and return to the normal coordination office, guys. You are still sharing the video.
Carolina?
We're experiencing technical difficulties here. But regardless of the video feed, let's move forward with our program. So we did a very short introduction at the beginning. Now I'd like to dive into a little bit more details. I would like to ask all of our panelists to talk a little bit about what their company does, what is the focus, and how Plug and Charge helps the business and what value it brings to their respective businesses. Who would like to start? Julia, would you like to go first?
Sure, thank you. So Electrify America is building out convenient, reliable, and customer-centric network of charging stations in the United States and Canada. Plug and Charge has played a huge role for us due to the simplicity of the customer experience. We have worked with our very trusted partner Hubject on this over the past few years, and we see from our customer that their expectations were actually exceeded because they say it's easier than filling up at the pump, because it's, especially for Plug and Charge enabled vehicles, because they don't have to use RFID, they don't have to use an app, they can just plug in and go. And we have over the years seen also that is the preferred payment method for them. So Plug and Charge is a very important product for us overall the past few years and also in the future roadmap.
Thank you, Julia. Eva, would you like to go next?
Sure, it'd be my pleasure, Oleg. So as mentioned, EVgo is an EV charging provider in the public retail and commercial, private, or fleet sectors. I want to focus on the public, though, more specifically, that in this space, we have, as at the end of third quarter of 2022, just over 2,600 DC fast charging stalls at over 900 locations in 30 states across the country. Because we own, operate, and maintain each of these public chargers, we don't make any money unless our customers can use them to charge their EVs. And this is really critical, because as such, customer experience and reliability of that charging experience are paramount to us. Right? And we are pursuing Plug and Charge as a means to improve both of those, as more EVs that support Plug and Charge are now entering the market.
Thank you very much. Bart, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I'll go next. Just kind of building on what Julia and Ivo said, that from BP's perspective, it's all about being kind of customer centric, and that customer is somebody that so the end user can be a public. A kind of a just a passenger vehicle driver, as well as on the fleet side, and everything to make the EV driver charging experience as seamless and as easy as possible. And we believe that that journey and making it so that you don't have to have the RFID card, you don't have to have that external identification, be part of the charging process, is critical for us to provide that really good customer experience, being able to just plug in and charge. And then also, from a security side, we're very conscious about cybersecurity, personal information security, infrastructure security. And so we believe that this is something that is implementing ISO 15118 in the Plug and Charge use case is something that is achieves that. And then it's not only, as I was mentioning, from the passenger vehicle side, but also from a fleet side. And fleet can be anything. A lot of people think of it as like a commercial fleet, as the larger, medium, heavy duty vehicles, but it's also from the light duty and from even passenger vehicles that might be part of a fleet of, let's say, ride hail. And so this being able to achieve a lot of the advances of a good EV charging experience are super critical. So for us, there will be something to further explore and implement on a global basis.
Thank you very much, Bart. And Cliff.
Yeah, and building on to what Ivo, Bart, and Julia already expressed, that plug and charge with Electrify America is already in the passenger market, and with EV Go coming, and Bart kind of touching on the smaller commercial fleets. What we are focusing on is the school bus market, is the heavy duty fleets, is the commercial fleet, and we see the transition from the passenger market into the fleet market of plug and charge is a huge advantage. One question which we always have to answer is, how many charging sessions did a certain vehicle do, either for school buses or trucks or whatever it is. And having the direct link, safe and secure, between the vehicle authentication via plug and charge and the charger and the CPO network behind that is crucial for us. And it's enabling significant more use cases, and as I mentioned, reporting. Secondly, especially in the school bus market, we see more and more push for V2X capabilities, getting into how can we feed energy back into the grid. And 15.11.8 with plug and charge is enabling this in the transition from a -2 implementation to a -20 implementation. So all of that, the basis from what we're seeing in the field, can and will be implemented on the commercial side. And this is what we are focusing on. And this is the interesting and exciting part here, as Oleg showed before. CCS, MCS, 15.11.8 and plug and charge is really addressing all vehicles out there, not just passenger vehicle, not just buses, but also airplanes in the future, boats in the future, all of that. So, and this is a proven standard and being transported in new opportunities.
Thank you very much, Cliff. So maybe I'll start my next question by asking if everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Was it quite enjoyable? Great. But as we excellent. But as we all know, Thanksgiving usually is followed by a massive cleanup in your house, because once you host a big party, there is a lot to clean up. And I was cleaning up my garage yesterday, and actually I found a flux capacitor. It was just laying out there, and I figured why not to use it today during our presentation. So we will engage this flux capacitor and try to go into the future. So let's talk about now, we're in the future. What does charging experience look like? What do we see? What do we feel? What do we experience as users of charging experience? Anybody would like to start? Please.
Sure, happy to. So since you brought up the flux capacitor, I'm going to say that I dream of a future where my EV goes off and charges by itself while I have better things to do. But not to delve too far into autonomous driving or robotic charging. Let's focus on the core, which is, I think we all want open, accessible, interoperable charging at any charging station with every EV that is in the market, right? Independent of network, where those EVs can serve as both identification and authentication of the charging session automatically upon plug-in, and secure payment at the completion of that charging session. And this simplicity and universality, sorry, a little hard word to say, across hundreds of thousands to millions of charging stations that we're now building in North America alone, dozens of EV OEMs and multiple hundreds of EV models, requires agreement to development of and refinement of standards that define and govern that process of identification, authentication, and payment. a mission that I think CharIN has taken on board with Plug and Charge, and that we as EVgo very sincerely endorse and rely on.
I would agree with that as well, Ivo. So I think it's important before you time travel also to look at the configurations that you can go back. So I think it is important also that we look at all of the current PKIs and structures and ecosystems that we have in place, that we can also support them in the future. Meaning this is the perfect time to align as a community, automakers, organizations, and look to somebody as CharIN and say, hey, what will be the standard moving forward, but also bringing everybody else along, because I think this will be very important, especially with all of the new PKIs coming to the market, to make sure we're all on the same page. And I think this is also where CharIN will play a big role with future testables and stuff like that, because I think those are critical to the success for the whole community.
Excellent point. Thank you. Anybody would like to continue?
I just briefly, I think that that future is that real. We use interoperability. I think we throw it out, but just to understand exactly what that means and what we want to work towards is that interoperability really should be something that allows for scale and to bring down cost and to improve reliability. Because at the end of the day, when we hear as various industry stakeholders, we all come together, and only when we have that really good experience and that reliability is when you start to hear more people buying vehicles, less podcasts or less articles about how you come up to a charger and it's not working. And through through testables that CharIN is organizing, and just through other industry collaboration, I really think that is where I hope the future will be, is that we don't have these issues of chargers not working, or the power not being delivered the way it should be, or somebody not being able to complete a charging transaction when they should just really be able to plug in. So that's really where I think that pushing and the industry, so that all the stakeholders, large and small, and creating different business use cases can come together so we can expand the whole industry as a whole, and create just kind of that true seamless interoperable opportunity and experience.
I want to add on to that, and I think this is actually really the transition, as Julia mentioned, between today and the future and the reliability. Because what we're seeing today is that because of timing issues at the beginning of a charging session, it might take too long to use a credit card. You might not have the right app. It might take too long to use the app. Maybe you don't have the cell reception, whatever it is. Maybe the car takes too long to talk to the charger, whatever it is. This is creating unreliability in the market as of today, which we're all trying to cover with interoperability testing. Try to eliminate these unknowns. If we have implementation like Plug and Charge, these unknowns are much smaller, because the system itself knows what it's doing. It's plugging in, it's authenticating, it's getting a response, it's starting to charge. All of these defined times are now well defined and coming back, and the system knows. The system doesn't need to wait. Does the guy still have the credit card? Did he try a second credit card? Did he still try to use the app? The system knows. And so in my previous work at BMW, we always had kind of a mantra: set it and forget it, for a lot of the features. This should be the same with Plug and Charge. People should just enable it and then don't have to think about it anymore. They go to a charger and they charge. And that's going to provide in the future that reliability, that customer comfort, really enabling a lot of the future advantages.
Thank you, Cliff. And I think actually both Cliff, you and Julia strongly alluded to some of the problems we're experiencing today. So maybe let's focus the next question on what are exactly the problems and challenges that we're experiencing today in charging. What do we need to solve? What issues do we need to address? Who would like to take it first? Please.
Because it's something near and dear to my heart. I'm working on that for quite some time. It's the multitude of chargers in vehicles and the multitude of charger in vehicle implementation. I think, and Ivo, please comment on that later, I think that's probably one of the biggest failure points which we're seeing, because it takes a significant effort by the vehicle manufacturer and by the charging station manufacturer, but also by the charging station operator, to ensure the interoperability between both systems across different products, across different software releases, across different feature changes, feature add-on, and keeping that working over multiple years. So really focusing on that integration. And unfortunately, all of the standards are still having room in them. So therefore, even if everyone implemented all standards perfectly, then you might still have issues with interoperability if you don't test for it. Also, charging station manufacturers have to serve customers which bought their EV in 2010, 2012, and early i3, my baby, which we launched, because what was released at this time still needs to work today. It might not be the best implementation with a new charging station released today, because there are 10 years in between. But the customer is expecting it's going to work. And really bringing that together and testing and validating before we release it to the customers, I think this is crucial.
That's an excellent point. Thank you, Cliff. Anybody would like to continue?
Sure, I'm happy. So look, I couldn't agree more. Right, interoperability is a huge issue that we all work on collectively through testing, through refinement of our standards. But I'll add to it that it's not necessarily just the interoperability between the EV and the EVSE. Right. Today, going to what we have to support, certainly on our public networks, we accept, per the video, abilities to start charging sessions via our mobile app, via an RFID card that we issue to customers who want one, via roaming partners' mobile apps and or RFID cards, and then if all else fails, a credit card swipe at the actual physical station or a call to the call center with credit card credentials to initiate a charge, right? All of which adds to the complexity of the customer experience and reliability, because point in fact is we give customers very many choices and therefore have to try to maintain the reliability of each of those at the same high level, right? And I'll just focus on one of those, which has been an area of my consternation since I've joined this space, and that's the credit card at the kiosk. Because policy requires us to support credit cards that have both swipe and chip. Swipe and chip means you enter a physical device, the card, into another device, meaning it has an opening, right? And most of our charging stations sit unprotected in the elements, and that alone provides significant failure points that we see very high failure rates of credit card readers and kiosks, much higher than the failure rates of EV chargers and other components within that session. So that does degrade our overall reliability and therefore the customer experience, something that we don't want to have happen in the marketplace. So having alternatives to this, particularly alternatives that provide better simplicity, like plug and charge, which will help migrate customers over to those as their vehicles support it, means we can eliminate some of these failure points and provide a more robust customer experience.
Thank you, Eva. Anybody would like to continue?
Well, I'd just like to add that, as part of this, we talk about the interoperability and where we are. I think a lot of this is, where we've come from. We talked about, Julie started to mention of, the years, and then Cliff talked about from what is like over 10 years since actually, kind of 15.11.8 was initially begun and conceived, and 2014 when the first edition came out. But I think that, the underlying part of this is that it has been taking a while, but we've made great advances, especially with kind of the most recent release of Dash 20 within the whole 15.11.8 and how that supports the enhancement of plug and charge and looking at, what does this mean for additional PKIs? And if not either cross certification, kind of cross recognition, and what this means for additional players to be part of the solution. But I think that a wider part of that is that what CharIN is offering and what people that are not members of being part of that conversation to direct and make sure that their voice is heard, and that we continue to refine and make sure that the direction in which this is able to solve the ISO 15118 standard and plug and charge as a use case is able to include all these elements so that we can refine, test, and make sure that all the components are working together. And I think that this is where where we've been and where we're going to, and I think that's going to just accelerate even more from kind of what we've seen over the last couple of years to be compressed in the next kind of year or two going forward.
I would like to add one more time to Bart. Also, is as a community to stand behind one technical solution, because I think with all the tasks ahead of us, with growing electrification, moving faster and faster, bringing more and more vehicles, if we have too many variants, which we all have to plan for, that we don't have the engineering resources and capabilities to make that all reliable. So therefore, focusing on one charging standard, focusing on an aligned ecosystem. This is also bringing in more partners into the ecosystem, but doing it the same way and moving them all in the same direction is going to help all of us, players which are in the market for quite some time, but also new players coming into the market, because now they have something to be built on. They don't need to figure out, do I do it this way or that way? Just do it the same way as it has been established, because that's going to bring you faster to market and probably also with a much lower cost on the implementation side.
I would like to add to that as well.
Please,
thank you, Cliff.
Please.
I think it's very important what Cliff mentioned, because I think we need to learn from the experience of other companies or other partners that already went through that experience and their lessons learned, everything they have implemented. Because I also think right now in the industry, it's a lot of different parties working in silo on the same type of technologies and standards. And I think we would be more efficient if we all come together and work on it combined, where we see, hey, here's an organization to have fresh eyes on it. This is what they think should be moving forward. But we also have everybody that worked on it previously and their years-long experience of already being in the it being already implemented. It's shown it's a working product, it's successful. So I think combining those two is very important to move forward.
Well, I think we just touched on a very important message, right? Reliability is very important, and reliability is based on standards and unification. That leads me to a very interesting question. How do you guys feel about multiple types of connectors on a charger? Today, it's a reality. We support CHAdeMO, we support some other connectors, legacy stuff. How do you feel about multitude of connectors, or connector types, I should say?
I mean, I'm happy to go first, and it's in the same vein as supporting multiple means of identification and authentication, right? It adds to the complexity, and higher complexity tends to yield lower overall reliability, because not all of the components are the same. They don't all have the same intrinsic capabilities and reliability, and therefore the sum of all of them tends to be slightly less than any one of them individually.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I concur. It's definitely easier to be able to have one piece of kind of a hardware, or at least a connector that one is able to deal with, and if there are issues to kind of streamline that, then multiple. I think that also fits in with kind of the OEMs as well, is that it makes it that having the hardware that is able to fit in with on the OEM side is a bit more seamless. But again, it goes back to that user experience, is that at the very beginning, they will get over it. It's a very quick learning curve, no doubt. Is that that somebody will pick up one connector and know that it doesn't go in, and it's kind of a it's a quick experiment that you get to the piece of cheese quite quickly. But I think that it's almost that what more places for failure. And I think that that's where it kind of hits on from a business point of view, but then also from just kind of perception point of view from the public. So ideally, not to have many. CharIN is very supportive and it kind of exclusive to CCS standard. And I think that all the other aspects of the standard to be able to make it not only from a technical point of view, but to support other business components, so that people are able to look at one standard and how they can develop business models around that and solutions, makes it a little bit more streamlined and easier for all stakeholders.
Yeah, and I see that strongly also from the customer perspective. The customer does not, they don't want to care what credit card, what account they're using. They also just want to go to a charger and use the charger. They don't want to figure out at this point, oh, it showed me in the app one station is available, but unfortunately that one station doesn't have the plug which I need on my vehicle because the others are used. They should all be the same, or at least really easy to understand for the customer, which ones are for them and which are not for them. Also, it's introducing a lot of uncertainty in the market because we have a lot of infrastructure funding coming into the US market. Now, everyone who is maybe not as familiar with charging and charging standards as we are is trying to figure out, I have that pot of money, I need to get infrastructure in which serves most of my people or customers, whoever lives in the area. What do I put in? Do I put in this type of charger, a CCS charger, or a different type of charger? How many of them? What is the right ratio? How many vehicles are out there? All of that just creates confusion in the market. If you can say, okay, this is the way how to charge your vehicle, and you buy them, and you can buy them in different sizes, and you can buy a 30 kilowatt or 150 or 350 kilowatt charger, that's understandable. But that it doesn't fit and doesn't work, I think that's creating confusion.
Makes sense. Any additional points on that? If not, I would like to ask you the following question. Obviously, many of us have seen the proposal made by Tesla to adopt Tesla's form factor of the connector for charging. And of course, it's nice to see that Tesla has recognized the importance of ISO 15118 protocol as a foundation of charging. Thank you very much for that. We're using this protocol as an integral part of combined charging systems, so it's nice to see that other form factors would like to use it as well. But at the same time, following this discussion on the confusion path, what does it do? And by the way, for all of you listening to this broadcast, welcome to take a look at the CharIN's public statement regarding Tesla's proposal. It has been posted earlier this morning on CharIN website, so you will see what CharIN's official position is. But I would like to ask our panelists, what do you think about this proposal? It's just another type of a connector, and connectors that has not yet gone through the standardization process, has not gone through validation by the industry, has not been through the peer review. Any thoughts?
Let me go first.
Please.
So yeah, following what you said, so really great that Tesla is moving forward and trying to improve the current reliability and operation of the charging stations. Also really good that we see a support on the communication, because as we discussed, if we harmonize the communication, it's going to help everyone. I see it rather critical to propose a new form factor as a standard already. As we said, standardization is really thorough, and we're working on the CCS standard, including the connector since 2010. And Barton mentioned the release of ISO 15118 in 2014, and the DIN 7121 even a bit earlier than that. Therefore, that proposal should be discussed in the standards organizations. And they are also seeing what positive aspects we can pull from the proposal, and maybe where should the proposal be leaning much closer to the current CCS standard.
Thank you, Cliff. Anybody would like to follow up?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll add to it. One of our missions at EVgo is to provide charging for all, right? And that means all customers, all EVs, all demo ethnographic participants in the US, and that is really important. So part of customer convenience also is making sure that we can do that. I think the adoption by Tesla, and I echo all of the kudos to them for adopting 15.11.8 as well as the underlying original DIN CCS protocol standard, because that gets us closer to interoperability. The fact that we now are potentially contending with a alternative connector or a different connector to the conversation we've just had is a customer convenience feature, but one that could impinge on overall reliability because we, again, are increasing complexity of our infrastructure.
Thank you very much.
I'm just going to really echo, not adding much more to that. It's very good. I think that it's want to see a lot more. What this means for standardization, but being able to provide a charging experience for as many EVs as possible is a good thing. And if Tesla in Europe uses CCS, so I think that's an important thing to also acknowledge that they've chosen that is CCS2 over there, CCS1 here in the US, which they have not implemented. But I think it is part of that conversation again of hopefully acknowledging the fact that this is all to the point of trying to create a good charging experience, but from a CPO side, it is something hard where you want to have maybe there's 2 charge points on each charger, and is that both of them going to be CCS? I mean, for the most part right now, that's what they would be, and then a second one, or one of the 2 maybe being a Tesla. I think that we have a ways to go, and what that means to make sure that it's a seamless, safe experience for everyone in the whole process. So like to applaud them as well, and love to see how this can work out so that it can be included in the right way.
Thank you, Bart. So maybe the next question I would like to ask is actually something that, Cliff, you already have started highlighting. Well, you are one of the fathers of 15.11.8, without a doubt, and you have been involved in developing the standard for many, many, many years. We probably have to keep the number confidential, right? But I think it's important to talk a little bit about the role of an industry ecosystem, industry alliance, the role of organization like CharIN. What does it bring to the table? How does it help us to converge on interoperability and quality of the charging experience? And I think it is important to mention also how long this journey has been to get to the point where we are today.
Yeah, let me answer that. So organizations like CharIN are crucial for that, because let's go back a bit how this all started. Early on, there was a discussion for certain automakers to say, okay, how can we combine AC and DC charging into one vehicle? There was no real estate in the vehicle to have 2 charging connectors, an AC and a DC, and this was kind of the founding idea for CCS. Now we had 2 additional DC pins, but what do we do with communication? So then it was that, okay, what is already existing on the AC side, which is a PWM signal, and then using PLC communication on top of that. That was an idea of a smaller group of automakers, a couple of Europeans, a couple of Americans, and then 1 or 2 Asians, which didn't really know how to bring that into the market. They went into the standardization as an idea, and at this point also an OEM initiative was founded and said, okay, the OEMs are sitting together to move that along in order to have a standard or a proposal going out in the market, which coincides with the publication or with the release of the vehicles. that was rather too small. That was cut too short because it was only the OEMs talking to each other. There were no charging station manufacturers included. There were no CPOs included. That's when that organization, as a small OEM organization, was broadened and actually moved out of the OEMs and then founded as an open forum and called CharIN. So CharIN now is incorporating, and we heard that today, around 300 members from all ways of the industry to really move that forward. Also, CharIN is at this point also supporting the consensus of a lot of technical ideas, which are then flowing back into the standards organization, because standards are written in ISO, in IEC, in SAE, in DIN, which is the German standardization organization. So CharIN is supporting all of that, and it's supporting the proposals to bring it back into the standards organization. So it's crucial to have an organization like CharIN to bring in your opinion and also to streamline the standardization process.
Thank you, Cliff. It's a very important point. It's basically, it takes a village to raise a child, right? So essentially, the connector and the standards that we're using today for charging is our child, and it takes all of us in the ecosystem to be that village to shepherd it into essentially a mature adult life. Anybody would like to add? If not, I would like to actually take maybe a few questions from the audience. So there was one question I think, Julia, I would like to ask your help with. So there was a question as, is there a risk of man in the middle for plug and charge? And is there a risk of having Hubject as the only CA in North America, which I think you know a lot about?
Yes, I think because Hubject is currently the only one with a live ecosystem and a live CA or V2G, I think, in the market, I don't see a risk of continuing with Hubject, because I think there's currently nothing else that is proven and secure on the market. So I support staying with Hubject as well. And I think when new PKIs come on the market, it is important that we look at it together. How does it fit? How does it all fit in? How can we have all organizations join? But at the end, for Electrify America, we are supporting our automakers and their customers. And whatever direction they need to go, we will support them and make sure that we still work with Hubject and it's backwards compatible, plus any other PKIs that come to the market. But overall, from a conclusion perspective, this is the only one in the market right now that is proven and secure. So I don't see a risk at the moment.
And I think it's fair to say that we should put things in perspective, right? When internet just started, there was one root CA. And today, the last time I checked, I think we have close to 3,000 root CA organizations providing PKI infrastructure for the internet. But you know, this is a growing pain, right? We have to mature to the level where actually there is enough business for those who provide those services to be in this business. So I agree with you. I don't see much risk. Anybody would like to add anything to it?
I think the only thing that I want to add is, again, to ensure that we do support all EVs and this lauded goal of interoperability. I think part of what I'm certainly relying on CharIN to help with is to ensure that we do get that level of interoperability, cross-trust, or backwards compatibility, whichever one is the means by which we achieve it, as new PKI CAs do come into the market, because we know that there will be additional ones coming.
Well, and I think that, yes, please.
So I was just going to say, you know, and that's the thing is that it, you know, we should enable that. You know, this isn't something where, you know, anybody's saying that this is the only path. I mean, this is advancing where we are. So this is an enabler of being able to, you know, make it work right now. But that's not to say that others can't come in and compete. But I think that, you know, it's the acknowledgement again of where we are and taking these steps and using the tools and, you know, I guess respecting, you know, some of the companies that are going out in front and implementing to help advance the standard and this use case. So, there's nothing to say that this is all of a sudden that's it. It's enabling others looking at how they can make a commercial opportunity, something that is a viable alternative solution, if that so be the case.
Yeah, and I want to add on to that. When Plug and Charge started and all of the PKI discussion started, there was no PKI for Plug and Charge. So therefore, the OEMs came together to fund Hubcheck, create Hubcheck as a neutral entity to provide the PKI, which doesn't say that there cannot be another PKI on top of that, which really ties into what Ivo said and also Bart. There can be multiple PKIs in there. There are systems of cross-certification, whatever you want to do. If you have another trusted PKI, like maybe the SAE initiative, which is ongoing, or others out there, which can coexist and provide service as long as they are working with each other, they are interoperable. So it should not end up again, oh, I'm certified with that one, so I cannot go to that charging station, or the other way around. So it needs to come together. We shouldn't create another division there. So therefore, this is how we can move forward, and CharIN has shown that in Europe. CharIN is also supporting CharIN V2G route in Europe, which already has been demonstrated in conjunction with the Hubcheck route in Europe. Both can coexist, and I think it was a demonstration with BMW where you had that in, and showing this. On the other side, there was a lot of discussion always about safety, security, cybersecurity. You have to imagine all of the OEMs which are subscribing to Hubcheck right now have their own cybersecurity teams, and everyone is vetting the PKI from Hubcheck independently. Everyone came to the conclusion that it's trusted enough to move forward for their customers. And exactly the same has to happen with any other PKI which can support Plug and Charge.
Thank you very much. And maybe there is a related question. So one of our audience members is asking, how do we see the evolution of payment systems and integration of the payment systems with Plug and Charge?
So I'll start with that.
Please.
I think that the idea is somebody will, like the MO, the mobility operator, or is going to be the group that holds your credit card details. Somehow it all has to go back to be able to pay for the transaction. And I think that that this then leads on to that roaming aspect that Ivo kind of talked about, and just being able to go anywhere. So if you're not having to pull out a credit card to be able to pay for it, or a phone, and everything is done through that seamless exchange of digital certificates, which one of them is kind of the representation of the EV driver, the EV owner, somehow that needs to go back. So I think it's just making sure, as part of the ISO 15118 and Plug and Charge, is not only all the digital certificates that each of the stakeholders represent, but then it's that ecosystem. So you have stakeholders, you have the PKI, but then you have how the exchange of all this, all the certificates and the authentication, and then the authorization. The authorization is more that completion of the EV charging transaction, kind of like that settlement of making sure that that somebody's going to be billed for it, and the respective CPO is going to get, or the MO is going to be able to get its the money. But anyway, I think that that's all part of the what is laid out in Plug and Charge and the ecosystem, so that you just really have to have your credit card details or your payment details with one organization, and hopefully then through roaming and through a mature ecosystem, that it doesn't make any difference where you are going to charge. That will all be taken care of, and you'll just get the bill as you normally would with any kind of charging session, or kind of almost when you might be fueling up, in a more traditional terminology.
Thank you, Bart. Any additional thoughts?
I was just going to add, I mean, sorry, go ahead, Julia.
Go ahead. So from my perspective, I think it's not a restriction from a technology perspective. It's more of a restriction from a commercial aspect. So I think once we grow as a community and we do interoperability and roaming, I think those topics will solve itself, because from a technology perspective, we can already support this. So I think I agree with Bart on this, but there's more non-technology focused, because we're already capable, and I think we can see that as well in Europe also. So I think it's just the US just needs to catch up a little bit and move into that direction in the future.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. We already have interoperability through roaming, so the settlement mechanisms already exist.
Thank you. Excellent answers. And by the way, I have to apologize to our audience. It is quite possible that we will not be able to get through all of the questions today, so this discussion will continue, and we'll find a way to moderate another conversation so we can get into more questions next time. But it's a pretty large topic, and I think the number of questions associated with it confirms the fact that we have a lot to discuss here. An interesting question is regarding how do we deal with large-scale motor coaches, towing type of trucks, and potentially even Class 8 trucks. Would they be a part of the same plug-and charge experience, and what kind of value can plug-and charge bring to that type of fleet operation on the highway? Anybody would like to take this question?
Let me go. Oh.
Please, Cliff.
Ivo, do you want to go or should I?
Go ahead, Cliff.
So on the implementation side of plug-and charge, I think it would be really useful, but it would also be really useful for fleet operators, because if you have the authentication, then you see which vehicle has consumed how much energy, and maybe your driver doesn't have to pay for the energy, but your fleet operator can reimburse the mobility operator directly or the CPO directly with monthly statement, whatever it is. So it's enabling a lot of these features. I think there's another part to that question, and it's less the communication. It's more, how do you charge on the highway with these kind of vehicles? And I think this is where the industry is heading, to figure out how can we enable new sites, other sites for large vehicles with trailers and whatever it is, because we know that the current sites are really meant for passenger vehicles and therefore are not the right one for school buses and whatever it is. It's funny to see when I go to my charging site close by here and see a school bus charging and blocking 5 other chargers. That site is clearly not meant for a school bus, but this is where the whole industry has to come together. And I think the group around MCS megawatt charging system is also addressing these topics. How does a commercial highway charging site need to be laid out?
Yeah, I was going to add on the plug-in charge, absolutely a critical element to provide the simplicity and ease of use. I mean, if we look at the non-electric fueling of fleets today, certainly the ones that fuel on public infrastructure, most of them implement some form of fleet card or fleet payment system, right? Which is in fact a means to uniquely be able to identify a payment method across multiple different gas stations or diesel stations or compressed natural gas. And the added complexity there is there's a whole bunch of other input there, like a driver ID and the mileage of the vehicle, to create the anti-fraud elements to ensure that you're actually charging the vehicle you're supposed to be driving in your job, right? Plug-in charge can eliminate all of that, because the vehicle itself will serve as the identification and the authentication that is either approved or not approved to charge based on the job that it is fulfilling. In terms of what Cliff said for highway charging, I think we're starting to see a recognition that passenger vehicles and fleet size vehicles, or the larger class 6 and above vehicles, require separate charging infrastructure, or at least separate spacing of charging infrastructure. Again, similar to what we see today in traditional fueling, right? There is the side where I stop with my family, and it's different from the side of the highway station that the Class 8 truck will stop at to fuel, because we just have to provide them the space and in many cases the additional power. So, and I think we're seeing that evolution come along as well.
Excellent point. All right, I would like to ask one last question because we're getting close to the end of our panel today. How do you see the impact of 1511A-20 on plug-and-charge and evolution of the plug-and-charge experience? Anybody would like to take this one?
Yep, let me take that one.
Please, Cliff.
So -20 is the next step to the -2 implementation. For -20, a lot of additional features like security enhancement, V2G, multi-certificates so that you can run multiple V2G routes in one vehicle are implemented. Unfortunately, that comes with implementation challenges because you need more CPU, you need more memory in your charging controller in the vehicle. So therefore, most of the vehicle architectures out there don't allow for just a software update to enable -20. So therefore, we will see -20 vehicles in the future. This is going to come, especially also with the V2G aspect, but this will be the next vehicle architecture. And the next vehicle architecture is also what is planned then for MCS. MCS is starting on a green field, and then, okay, all MCS vehicles are going to build on -20 and not on -2. What does that mean for the infrastructure? The infrastructure today has to support two different protocol versions with 1571.1 and 1511A-2. So we will have to support it the same way, then you will have to support 3. And when you're plugging in, then the vehicle and the charger will negotiate. Do we speak 15? Do we speak -2 or do we speak -20? And that's going to enable additional features. So therefore, -20 is not tomorrow. -20 will need implementation, but I think in 2 to 3 years, we will see the first -20 implementation coming.
Thank you.
I think I would agree with Cliff on all of that as well, because we are talking to our automakers as well, and overall within our network, I think it's going to take at least 1 or 2 years for everybody to adapt and then moving forward.
That makes sense. Anybody would like to add?
The only thing I would say is just kind of building on what I was mentioning earlier is that, these are the voices of the industry and from all parts of it, whether it's a CPO, software, hardware, OEM, and this is to the advancement of a standard that is going to enhance that whole charging experience. So as we were saying, multiple contracts, enhanced security. These are all the aspects of what makes the standard evolving and kind of a living document where it doesn't just stay stationary in one way. It is always brought in through the inputs of other industry companies and stakeholders to improve upon it. So I guess that's just a call out again of making sure, get involved and make sure that whoever, what part of the EV charging infrastructure your company is representing is that voice is being heard, so that as we continue to evolve it, that we include that, and then the next iteration is enhanced and improved even that much more.
Yeah, maybe just to add to that, and to the point that both Cliff and Julia made, is that and keep us all honest that we've got the right fallback and redundancy and backwards compatibility built in, because that an evolution of a standard needs to ensure that we don't strand or isolate any entities or implementations of it that can't necessarily follow along.
That's an excellent point. Excellent. So now it's time for our closing points. I would like to give an opportunity for all of our panelists to make a closing statement, summarize your view on what we discussed today, and we'll move to another interesting videos that we would like to share at the end of our webinar. Who would like to start?
I guess I'll go first. So I think overall we mentioned a lot already, but I think it is very critical that we come together as a community and work on standards together, that we continue everybody support testing festivals and just share the knowledge across organizations and across different communities, because I think Plug and Charge is already such a success and customers love the technology, and I think for us to drive it forward, we need to come together. So that is, for me, I think, the overall closing point, that we just need to come together through CharIN or other organizations and keep working on this.
Excellent point.
And
Julia,
thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for participating.
I'm happy to go next, and it's going to be very much in the same vein, which is to say to our members of CharIN, please lend your voice, your knowledge, and your experience in helping us bring about this seamless future that we've all talked about so eloquently, and that we all want to have come about. And if you haven't joined CharIN and are on the fence, please join us and add your voice to the mix, because these types of complex problems are much better solved through a combination of mutual effort. To Oleg's point, we're raising a stubborn child, and it takes a village.
Thank you, Ivo.
I'll just jump in here. As one of the things is all this input is very important. Working towards reliability, and each of the companies that are contributing, but also the diversity of it's individuals and companies. So the more voices, the more input. I think it's very important to have that, and working towards, again, that seamless EV driver charging experience is all towards the kind of consumer, whether that's an individual or maybe a company from a fleet side. But it all starts from the brainstorming and working through and testing. And very happy to be part of CharIN, and do encourage others to join, because it is it's a group effort to make sure that we have that the reliability at the end be something that these conversations we'll look back in some of the recordings, and hopefully 3 or 4 years go, well, I can't believe you were talking about that. But hopefully resolution will come soon through group effort, and a diverse group effort as well.
Yeah, I want to also thank everyone for joining, and I can just echo everything my co-panelists said. Really re-emphasizing again, if you're part of CharIN, then please support the testing symposium, the standardization. Every test helps something, and what I'm trying to tell my engineers all the time, if you have a problem once and you tell me, oh, I just had it once, it's going to not impact my customer. The customer will find it, don't worry. It will come back with the customer. So therefore, every issue we can see before it goes to the customer is going to help the industry and all of us. And if you're not yet a CharIN member, then please join, please support, because it's going to help your organization to move forward the electrification. And it's going to help everyone else, like the CPOs we have here on the call, to provide best customer service to their customers and your customers, if you have integrated before you reach out to the customers. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you very much. I really would love to thank all of you panelists for your thoughts, your contribution, the work on this panel. It was absolutely fantastic. And if I learned anything today, it's very simple statement. We learn from the nature. In nature, only biodiverse ecosystems survive. And I'm very proud to say that today, CharIN, if you look at our 291 members, we're a very diverse ecosystem. And this diversity is a key to unlocking the potential and the future of that seamless charging we talked about today, because it takes every single value chain, this huge diversity, to bring really this child to market and make charging experience seamless as we want it to be.